What's up guys? Welcome to part 7 of What If I Reincarnated as Yamamoto Genryusai in Naruto, and saved the Uzumaki clan. If you like my videos, please for me, give this one a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and share it with your friends. Without wasting more of your time, on the sensei signing in. Danzo was the individual who felt the most intense pressure from Mitsuo. I deeply apologize for the rude behavior displayed by our side. Rest assured, such misconduct will not occur again, Hiruzen expressed, attempting to appease Mitsuo. Mitsuo eased the pressure and nodded in Hiruzen's direction before stating, "It is imperative that you maintain strict control over your subordinates, or else I wouldn't mind taking further action, such as removing his other hand, which my uncle left behind." Upon hearing Mitsuo's words, Danzo's face contorted in anger as he clenched his fist tightly. Unfazed by Danzo's enraged expression, Mitsuo continued, "Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Uzumaki Mitsuo, the former clan head of the Uzumaki clan. I have arrived as the Jonin leader from the Uzumaki village." The words of Mitsuo left everyone present in the Hokage office astounded. They had not anticipated that the former clan head of the Uzumaki clan would personally visit Konoha. Mitsuo then directed his attention towards Kushina and stated, "She is Uzumaki Kushina, my beloved granddaughter, and also the apprentice of the fire god. And these two, Sakura and Hiroshi, will be participating in the Chunin exam." The people in the Hokage office hadn't even recovered from the news that the former clan head of the Uzumaki clan had arrived personally. Mitsuo dropped another bombshell by revealing that Kushina was the apprentice of the fire god. They remembered the magnitude of destruction caused by Kagetsuchi, and they made the decision to announce to their respective clans to avoid any conflicts with this girl. Hiruzen also intended to make the ninja community aware, and cautioned them not to offend Kushina. Kushina, Sakura, and Hiroshi respectfully greeted the others present in the office. "Please proceed to the Senju clan, as Mito-sama is waiting for your arrival," said Hiruzen. Upon hearing these words, Mitsuo also grew eager to reunite with his elder sister, whom he hadn't seen in a long time. At that moment, a ninja from the Senju clan stepped forward and said, "Please come with me. I will guide you to the Senju family compound, where Mito-sama is eagerly awaiting your arrival." After nodding in acknowledgement to the Senju ninja, Mitsuo and his team from the Uzumaki family followed the ninja and left the Hokage's office. After Mitsuo departed, Tsukumo reported on what he had witnessed in the Uzumaki village. He confirmed that Kagetsuchi was still alive, and by observing him, it could be concluded that his strength had not diminished at all. On the contrary, it seemed to have further increased. The person most filled with regret was Danzo. He had hoped that Kagetsuchi might have passed away from old age, allowing him to seek revenge on the Uzumaki village. Mito sat quietly on the tatami seat, awaiting the arrival of the team from the Uzumaki village. As soon as the team entered the Senju clan compound, she was able to sense the familiar chakra of her brother among them, and a smile appeared on her face. Finally, Mitsuo and the others arrived inside the room where Mito was waiting. Mito waved her hand, and the ninja from the Senju clan left the room. With an emotional voice, Mitsuo said, "It has been a long time, sister." After a few minutes of silence, Mito finally broke the silence and asked, "How is uncle doing right now?" Mitsuo replied, "He is doing fine." Then he pointed toward Kushina and said, "Do you remember her?" Mito pondered for a moment and then said, "Is she Kushina? She has really grown up. The last time I saw her, she was just 2 years old. Come, give me a hug." Mito embraced Kushina. At that moment, Tsunade also arrived and witnessed Mito hugging Kushina. Seeing Tsunade, Mito released Kushina and asked everyone to take a seat. Then she turned towards Tsunade and inquired, "What did Monkey ask of all of you?" Tsunade replied, "He simply inquired about the situation in the Uzumaki village, and whether Uzumaki Kagetsuchi is still alive. He also asked about the strength of the participants in this Chunin exam." Mito nodded after listening to Tsunade's words. Then she turned towards Sakura and Hiroshi and remarked both of them seem promising. At the very least, they have the potential to become elite Jonin. They all began to converse casually, and after a few minutes, noticing that Kushina was becoming bored, Mito asked Tsunade to take her on a tour of the village, accompanied by Hiroshi and Sakura. However, Hiroshi didn't want to feel out of place in a group of girls, so he decided to explore the village on his own. Nodding in agreement, Tsunade took Kushina, along with Sakura, around the village. They strolled leisurely, enjoying the sights, engaging in shopping, and treating themselves to various delectable delicacies. Eventually, as they continued their exploration, Tsunade's eyes caught sight of a casino. Excitedly, she halted and exclaimed, "Come with me. I'll show you my gambling skills as the granddaughter of the gambling god." Wearing a self-assured smile, she firmly grasped Kushina's and Sakura's hands, and guided both of them inside the casino. "But Sister Tsunade, isn't gambling considered inappropriate for a ninja?" asked Kushina. Tsunade simply scoffed at this and replied, "These rules were established by some old-fashioned ninjas. We are young and should be bold enough. Come, I'll show you my gambling skills." With that, Tsunade initiated the gambling session involving Kushina and Sakura. An hour later, outside the casino, Tsunade was shouting, "You're all cheaters. You're playing unfairly." Observing this, Kushina's face twitched as she tried to calm Tsunade down. After soothing Tsunade, she sat there with a saddened expression. At that moment, Kushina playfully remarked, "You truly are the granddaughter of the gambling god. You showcased your skills without even winning a single bet. Even an amateur like me won 3 times. Kushina covered her mouth with her hands to suppress her laughter, while Sakura also stifled her amusement. Hearing Kushina's words, Tsunade became even more despondent. At that moment, a voice emerged from behind them, asking, "What are you both doing here?" It was none other than Jiraiya. Kushina responded, "We came here with Sister Tsunade. She lost all her bets and became sad. It's normal. Everyone in the Fire Country knows that Tsunade always loses her bets. That's why people have given her the nickname Fat Sheep," remarked Jiraiya. Kushina wanted to inform him that Tsunade was right behind her. But before she could speak, Jiraiya continued, "She's just a woman with big breasts and no brains. That's why she doesn't win. If it were me, I would have become a gambling god by now. But I'm not interested in all this. I'm only interested in gathering materials for my work." Jiraiya kept talking, unaware that Tsunade was sitting right there, with Kushina and Sakura in front of her, shielding her from his view. At that moment, both Kushina and Sakura felt a surge of murderous intent emanating from behind them. They quickly moved away. As soon as they did, Jiraiya saw Tsunade clenching her fist, her anger evident on her face. The words died in Jiraiya's mouth as he started sweating profusely. He stammered, Tsunade, you're here. What I just said was just a joke. Don't take it seriously." He began to back away from his original position. Tsunade stood up and with a thunderous shout that echoed throughout Konoha, she exclaimed, "You bastard." She threw a powerful punch at Jiraiya, sending him flying 3 houses away. Both Kushina and Sakura briefly mourned for Jiraiya's fate. After that incident, Tsunade, Kushina, and Sakura returned to the Senju compound. At the gate of the Senju clan, Hiroshi was standing, engaged in a conversation with Senju Nawaki. They had coincidentally met when Hiroshi was wandering around the village. Curiously, they followed Tsunade and the others on their way back to Mito's room. Finally reaching the room, Mito and Mitsuo were engrossed in their discussion. As everyone returned, Mito and Mitsuo nodded in acknowledgement. However, when they caught a whiff of alcohol emanating from Tsunade, Kushina, and Sakura, they frowned. Mito asked, "What were you all doing? And where were you 3? Upon hearing Mito's question, Tsunade, Kushina, and Sakura lowered their heads. At that moment, Kushina shifted the blame onto Tsunade and said, "It was Sister Tsunade who dragged us to the casino against our will. We never wanted to go." Mito gazed at Tsunade with a sense of helplessness and slight exasperation. "When will you ever quit your incessant gambling habit? It seems you haven't even once entertained the thought of giving it up. And yet, you persist in clinging to it," she remarked, her tone tinged with a mixture of concern and frustration. In response, Tsunade playfully stuck out her tongue, a mischievous twinkle in her eyes. Observing Tsunade's carefree antics, Mito sighed softly and shook her head in a gesture of mild resignation. "You all must be tired, go and have rest," she suggested, her voice carrying a touch of motherly concern. "Okay, dear Grandma Mito and Small Grandpa," Kushina chimed in, her voice filled with a mix of affection and playful teasing, as she swiftly darted away, her footsteps echoing through the corridors. Wait. You promised you wouldn't call me that," Mitsuo called out, his gaze fixed on the receding figure of Kushina. Kushina swiftly pivoted on her heels, shooting a mischievous glance at Mitsuo, before playfully sticking out her tongue in his direction. With an impish grin adorning her face, she sprinted away with increased speed, her laughter trailing behind her. Mito burst into laughter, her amusement resonating through the room. "Ha ha ha, Small Grandpa," she exclaimed, unable to contain her mirth. Mitsuo, wearing a warm smile, gently shook his head in response. "Why does she call you Small Grandpa?" Mito inquired curiously. Mitsuo's smile widened, and he replied with a hint of fondness in his voice. Well, you see, she calls our uncle Grandpa, and since I'm younger and physically less imposing than him, she affectionately bestowed upon me the nickname of Small Grandpa. His words were accompanied by a helpless smile, reflecting the playful dynamics of their familial bond. The days passed like this, and finally, the day of the Chunin exam arrived. Today, with the opening speech of the Hokage, the first round of the Chunin exam will be held. Kushina, along with others, reached the Chunin exam venue where the Hokage was going to give his speech. There were quite a lot of people, mostly students from the Ninja Academy, as well as participants from other villages, who were going to take part in the Chunin exam. After half an hour, the Hokage, along with advisors and other clan heads, arrived at the venue. Once the Hokage and others settled in their seats, a Jonin went to the podium and started speaking. Good morning, everyone. I thank you all for joining us in this Chunin exam event, and a special thanks to all the ninjas from other villages for attending this event. As we all know, there are many who have participated in this Chunin exam, and to announce the rules of this exam, I would like to invite our beloved Hokage-sama, who is also the strongest Hokage present to date, and has mastered all 5 chakra nature ninjutsu. He is known by the world as the Professor. The students of the Ninja Academy had looks of respect and reverence on their faces. Hiruzen also smiled after hearing the words of the Jonin, and just as he was about to stand up, he suddenly heard something. Kushina tried to stifle her laughter, but it escaped in muffled bursts that caught the attention of those around her. When Kushina saw others looking at her, she stopped suppressing her laughter and burst out laughing, saying, "Ha ha ha." At that moment, a young boy with yellow hair who was standing beside Jiraiya, and also had a smile and look of respect towards the Hokage, after listening to the words of the Jonin, frowned and asked, "Miss, I don't think there was anything funny. If you are laughing at a joke, then please share it with all of us, so that we can laugh too. Laughing at a time like this is disrespectful and hurts the sentiments of others. Isn't this funny? He is crowned as the strongest Hokage just because he has mastered all 5 chakra natures. But this was also accomplished by both the first Hokage and the second Hokage. They even mastered unique ninjutsu of their own. The first Hokage had the wood release, and the second Hokage had the flying thunder god technique. Additionally, almost more than half of the ninjutsu in the sealed book of Konoha was created by the second and first Hokage, said Kushina. Although this statement was made by Kushina, it was a sentiment shared by everyone present, who had experienced the era of Hashirama and Tobirama, especially the elders and clan heads of the large clans. Hearing Kushina's words, Minato also became speechless. He didn't know how to counter her remarks. At that moment, Jiraiya patted his shoulder, calming him down. Hiruzen then approached the podium and spoke. What Kushina said is absolutely true. As a student of the second Hokage, Tobirama, and having been taught by the first Hokage, Hashirama, I am well aware of their strength. There is no doubt that they are more powerful than me. My mentor teachers are much more powerful than I am. Although it seemed as if Hiruzen felt nothing, deep inside his heart, he had already cursed Kushina numerous times. His plan was simple. By presenting himself as the strongest Hokage and gradually overshadowing the reputation of the previous Hokage, he could establish himself as the most powerful Hokage in the eyes of the current generation. Even though the older generation knew the truth, they would not openly oppose him as the Hokage. With the approaching war, it was evident that the older generation would inevitably participate, and somehow, he would ensure their disappearance, securing his position as the strongest Hokage. However, due to Kushina's intervention, he was forced to publicly admit that he was weaker than the first Hokage, thereby ruining his plan. Now, let's discuss the rules of the Chunin exam. The first round will be a written exam, which you have already completed. The rules for the second round will be announced, said the Hokage with a smile. Finally, after talking about the Will of Fire, Hiruzen also left the podium after that. The Jonin ninja announced the end of today's opening ceremony, and told them that the first round will be held in the afternoon, and left in the direction where Hiruzen and others left. At this time, there were only Genins left who came to participate in this Chunin exam. One of the girls came near Kushina and spoke, "You really are brave, and don't fear speaking against Hokage standing in Konoha." After hearing the words of the girl, everyone perked their ears and listened. Even Minato was listening to it. Why should I fear him? Rather, he would always protect me, because if something happened to me, then he knows that my grandpa will bury the whole Konoha, said Kushina in a disdainful tone. The girl covered her mouth, suppressing her smile, and said with a smile, "Who is your grandpa?" "His name is Uzumaki Kagutsuchi, also known by the world as Fire God. And in your Konoha, he is known as the Hell Demon," said Kushina with pride. After hearing Kushina's words, everyone present was horrified, as they knew very well how powerful that guy really was. Subconsciously, They moved away from Kushina, not wanting to interact with or offend her in any way. Upon witnessing the behavior of everyone present, Kushina wasn't surprised. Almost everyone outside the Uzumaki country fears her grandpa, and according to her, this clearly shows how powerful he really is, as people only fear the strong. Kushina didn't bother anyone and turned around, leaving the venue. She headed towards the location where the first round of the Chunin exam is scheduled to be held. Sakura and Hiroshi followed behind her. The students began to gather at the exam venue for the first round of the Chunin exam, and Kushina was among them. At that moment, Jiraiya, who was in charge of the first round of the Chunin examination, arrived. The first round was a written exam, and the questions were easy for Kushina, Sakura, and Hiroshi. They completed the exam within 20 minutes, despite having an hour to finish, and left after submitting their papers. Finally, the results of the first round were announced and posted on the walls. Namika's Minato ranked first, while Uzumaki Kushina came in second, and Sakura and Hiroshi third and fourth respectively. Kushina glanced at Minato with appreciation, although she didn't expect anyone to rank above her. However, it wasn't too surprising, and she became slightly frustrated. Just then, she heard the sound of quarreling, and turned around to see a group of people who were dissatisfied with the rule that if anyone from their team failed, the entire team would be disqualified. The dissatisfaction escalated into a quarrel. As the argument unfolded, a potent and intimidating, murderous aura locked onto everyone present. Those who had been quarreling suddenly found themselves drenched in cold sweat, overcome by fear. Anyone who has been deemed disqualified should leave the venue immediately, or else I won't hesitate to eliminate you all and rid the world of trash, Orochimaru declared, his murderous aura still palpable and affecting everyone present. Upon hearing Orochimaru's words, those who had been disqualified hastily left the exam venue, as if a venomous snake was chasing them, ready to devour them whole. As everyone departed, Orochimaru scanned the remaining audience and noticed Minato, who had been affected by his murderous aura, but still retained the ability to move. Continuing his gaze, he then saw Kushina, who appeared entirely unfazed, standing with ease. It dawned on him that she was a disciple of Uzumaki Kagutsuchi, and even he himself felt pressure in the presence of that man. For Kushina, who had trained under Kagutsuchi, Orochimaru's murderous aura would be like a gentle breeze. After the disqualified ninjas had left the venue, Orochimaru dissipated his murderous aura and announced, "The second round of the Chunin exam will take place in the Death Forest. Follow me." With those words, Orochimaru swiftly departed at high speed, and the genin participants followed in his direction. Orochimaru's pace was so rapid that they struggled to keep up with him. However, Kushina remained close behind Orochimaru, maintaining a tight pursuit. Just a few meters behind her was Minato, and beside him was Sakura and Hiroshi, trying their best to keep up. Finally, they arrived at the Forest of Death, but upon reaching their destination, they noticed a group of Chunin ninjas from Konoha already waiting there. As all the contestants gathered, the Chunin ninjas began distributing scrolls to each participant. Some scrolls had heaven written on them, while others had earth written on them. Confusion filled the air, prompting Orochimaru to address the perplexed contestants and explain the rules of the exam. To pass the second round, Orochimaru declared, "You must possess both an earth and a heaven scroll. Within the next 2 days, make your way to the central building within the Death Forest while holding both scrolls. Those who accomplish this will qualify, while the others will be disqualified." Upon hearing Orochimaru's words, an uproar ensued among the contestants. Only 20 teams had qualified for the second round, and by the conclusion of this stage, only 10 teams would remain in the competition. As Orochimaru announced the rules, a Chunin ninja stepped forward and handed Kushina a scroll with heaven written on it. While giving her the scroll, the Chunin ninja smiled and asked, "Are you truly the granddaughter and disciple of the fire god?" Kushina and her team members frowned upon hearing the question. Kushina sensed the hostility lurking behind the smile, but she decided to play along and responded, "Yes, I am." Upon hearing Kushina's affirmation, the Chunin ninja's face twisted into a ferocious expression. In a sudden burst of aggression, he drew out his kunai and launched an attack. However, due to his nervousness, he only managed to sever Kushina's arm without inflicting a fatal injury. With a thud, Kushina's left hand fell to the ground. First of all, no one expected that anyone would dare to attack Kushina, as they had received orders from the Hokage not to offend anyone from the Uzumaki clan, because they couldn't afford it. When they saw someone attacking Kushina, their minds went blank, and they were left speechless. A look of fear started appearing on everyone's faces from Konoha. One of the Chunin ninjas spoke, "Have you gone mad? Do you not know her identity?" Another Chunin said, "Are you trying to kill us all? Do you not know the consequences of your actions?" Orochimaru also lost his calm, his hands were shaking. 6 years ago, He had witnessed the amount of destruction caused by Kagetsuchi, and at that time, he showed mercy and spared everyone. But this time, consumed by rage, he couldn't help but shiver at the thought of what might happen. Finally, the Chunin in question spoke. "I don't care. Whatever you say, I don't care. I only know that my elder brother and father died at the hands of that bastard hell demon. For him, it was just a wave of his hand, but for me, I lost everything in that wave of his hand. My father and my elder brother died in the fire that he casually generated. I know that I can't take revenge on him, but at least by killing his granddaughter, I can inflict the same pain that I felt after losing my father and brother." Saying this, the Chunin wanted to attack Kushina again, in an attempt to kill her completely. But before he could attack, Kushina appeared in front of him and grabbed him with her right hand. Her left hand, which had fallen to the ground, burst into flames and regenerated on her left arm, good as new. Witnessing this, the Chunin's face filled with horror and despair, as even his previous attack proved ineffective against Kushina. "I sympathize with what happened to your father and brother. But if you try to kill me, thinking I am weak and with the motive of causing pain to my grandfather, you are mistaken," Kushina said. As she finished speaking, her left hand transformed into a fire and engulfed the Chunin ninja entirely, burning him to a charred state. His lifeless body fell to the ground. Everyone present was shocked after witnessing how Kushina's left arm regenerated unharmed. The participants of the exam were surprised by how effortlessly Kushina had killed the Chunin ninja, giving him no chance to resist. She defeated him as easily as a Jonin would kill a Genin. Kushina picked up the Heaven Scroll and returned to her place, standing with her team. Observing all of this, Orochimaru breathed a sigh of relief. He also began to understand why the other teammates from the Uzumaki village remained unfazed and wore calm expressions. Similar to the hydration technique of the Hazuki clan, Orochimaru muttered to himself, making the connection. After the brief incident concluded, the Chunin distributed all the scrolls to the respective teams. Once every team received their scrolls, Orochimaru announced the start of the competition. As soon as Orochimaru's words fell, each team began to move into the Forest of Death, prepared to fight for the scrolls and qualify for the second round. Meanwhile, inside the Hokage's office, Sarutobi Hiruzen received information about the events that took place in the Forest of Death. Nervously, he crushed the pipe he was smoking in his hand. However, upon learning that Kushina was unharmed, he finally felt relieved. Hiruzen glanced at the kneeling Anbu ninja and said, "Bring me the details of that ninja immediately." Receiving the Hokage's orders, the Anbu ninja swiftly left and returned within a minute, providing the details of the mentioned ninja. As Hiruzen read the information, his anger instantly flared up, causing a surge of powerful chakra. He was so furious that he crushed the table in front of him, along with the paper containing the ninja's details. "Danzo, you bastard. What the hell are you trying to do?" he exclaimed in rage. Witnessing Hiruzen's intense anger and feeling the overwhelming pressure emanating from him, the kneeling Anbu ninja began sweating profusely and almost lost their balance, nearly falling to the ground. Hiruzen glanced at the trembling Anbu ninja, easing off his pressure, and then apologized for his sudden outburst. He composed himself and said, "Go and bring Danzo to me immediately." Hiruzen's anger stemmed from the information that the ninja in question had been brought to Konoha as an orphan 10 years ago, and subsequently taken in by Danzo's organization, the Roots. It was clear that Danzo was involved in this, as the ninja couldn't have lost his father and brother as claimed. Finally, Danzo entered the Hokage's office and noticed the state of the room. His eyes narrowed as he asked, "Why did you call me? Hiruzen, is there something you need from me?" Hiruzen remained silent and simply threw the information about the ninja in Danzo's direction. He spoke sternly, "You know very well why I called you, and I won't waste my words explaining it to you. I will tell you one thing." Hiruzen continued in a cold tone, his aura pressing heavily toward Danzo. "If anything were to happen to Kushina in any way, I will kill you first. And if, by any chance, Mito-sama becomes aware of today's incident, I will not defend you in any way." After hearing Hiruzen's words and feeling the killing intent emanating from him, Danzo knew that Hiruzen was serious and would definitely kill him if necessary. In front of Hiruzen, Danzo could only submit. "And from today onwards, no ninja from Root will leave the Root base. If I find anyone leaving, I won't hesitate to disband Root. Remember, I am not arresting your Root members, just because I don't want Mito-sama to become suspicious of your involvement," said Hiruzen. "But, Hiruzen, if my Root ninjas don't leave, many tasks will be halted," said Danzo, attempting to reason with Hiruzen. "Shut up. Don't forget, I am the Hokage," shouted Hiruzen. Upon hearing Hiruzen's words, Danzo clenched his fist in anger. However, he knew he couldn't do anything. He turned around and said, "You will regret it." Hiruzen then slammed the door of the Hokage's office and left. At the same time, while Hiruzen and Danzo were arguing, Mitsuo also learned about Kushina being attacked. He wanted to immediately go and question the Hokage about this, but Mito stopped him. She told him that even if they asked why Kushina was attacked, Hiruzen would simply apologize and distance himself from the matter. She believed that Hiruzen was not foolish enough to attack Kushina, so she trusted the explanation given by the Chunin ninja and managed to calm Mitsuo down. Inside the Forest of Death, Kushina and her teammates moved swiftly, racing through the dense foliage. They were heading toward the direction where Kushina sensed the presence of a team carrying the Earth Scrolls. Before entering the forest, she had memorized the chakra signatures of the team with the Earth Scroll. Unluckily, she hadn't come across any team with the Earth Scroll for the past hour. But now, finally, she had found the team and was running determinedly in their direction. Finally, with her team, Kushina encountered the other team carrying the Earth Scroll. It turned out to be a team from Konoha, and as soon as they saw Kushina, they were struck with fear, having witnessed her strength. Kushina calmly looked at the Konoha ninjas and said, "Give me the Earth Scroll, and I will let you all go unharmed." The team members looked at each other in confusion, but then their expressions hardened, and they said, "If we admit defeat, how are we worthy to carry the will of fire?" Hearing their words, Kushina shook her head and said, "They are thoroughly brainwashed. No need to hold back, take the scroll as quickly as possible. I'm feeling hungry and want to eat food made by Grandma Mito." After receiving orders from Kushina, both Hiroshi and Sakura immediately attacked the Konoha team. Their fists were covered in flames as they unleashed their attacks. Being just genin, the opposing team couldn't evade Sakura and Hiroshi's onslaught. They fell to the ground, clutching their chests, suffering from burns. The remaining genin, filled with fear, trembled and stood frozen. With a disdainful tone, Sakura said, "Weakling," and used fire pistol. A small fireball, resembling a bullet, passed through the shoulder of the remaining genin, causing them to scream in pain and collapse to the ground. Hiroshi seized the opportunity to take the scroll from the genin, but they refused to give it up, saying, "Even if I die, I'm not going to give you the scroll." Hiroshi responded, "Why bother?" and forcefully held the genin's hand, burning it below the wrist. Overwhelmed by pain, the genin let go of the scroll. Hiroshi picked it up and appeared next to Kushina, declaring, "Scroll obtained." Kushina nodded and left with Sakura and Hiroshi. Just as they departed, a team of monitoring ninjas arrived and witnessed the miserable state of the defeated team. "How cruel," one of them remarked. The team captain intervened, saying, "Stop talking nonsense and help them up. Let's get them treated." The other team members nodded in agreement and left to arrange medical assistance for the defeated team. Just as Kushina and her teammates reached the building, with Minato and his team following closely behind, they entered the central building in the Forest of Death. Kushina and Minato handed over their respective scrolls. At that moment, the monitoring ninja team brought the seriously injured team inside the building. As soon as they entered, the injured genin caught the attention of everyone present, and the medical team rushed over to begin treating their injuries. "Who used such excessive force in the Chunin exams? They will need at least half a year of rest before they can resume their missions," one of the healers exclaimed. Upon hearing this, the genin team looked toward Kushina and her team with resentment. Observing their reaction, it became clear to everyone present what had transpired. After observing their reaction, the kind-hearted Minato couldn't help but ask, "Why? Why did you feel the need to do this? You are clearly very powerful, and there was no necessity to go to such extreme lengths. First of all, I am not from your village, so you have no right to ask me this question. Secondly, as weaklings, they should have the consciousness of being weak. If any weakling starts challenging me, wouldn't I be wasting my time? They must have fear in their hearts for the strong, and fear never comes from gentleness. This is the first lesson taught by my grandfather," said Kushina, maintaining a stoic expression. "No, you are absolutely wrong. Strength should never instill fear in the weak, but rather make them feel secure when they are around. Only through kindness can true peace be achieved," said Minato confidently. "Your words may sound lofty and idealistic, but they are nothing more than mere dreams. The same words were once spoken by the first Hokage of your village, but his death proved that peace was only maintained through the fear of his strength. If he hadn't possessed that strength, he wouldn't have been able to achieve peace and establish Konoha," retorted Kushina. Kushina continued, her voice filled with disdain. "And you are not even as strong as him, so don't speak so highly. First, become strong and then talk about peace." She then turned towards her teammates and said, "Let's go," before leaving the building to enjoy the delicious food prepared by her grandmother. Minato stood, looking at Kushina's back, and said, "I will prove that only with kindness can peace be achieved." Kushina didn't respond in any way and left the building. Upon her return to the Senju clan compound, she was greeted by a worried Mitsuo. After seeing that Kushina was fine, he breathed a sigh of relief. That night, they celebrated the safety of Kushina, and her qualification for the third round of the Chunin exam. Finally, after 2 days, the second round of the exam concluded, and a total of 8 teams qualified. 10 teams could have qualified, but only 8 were able to do so due to various reasons. Now, there were 24 genin left who were eligible to fight in the upcoming battles. After the end of the second round of the exam, Hiruzen gave a speech on the Will of Fire. Listening to it, Kushina yawned, and no one was surprised by her behavior. Hiruzen then announced that there would be preliminaries before the third round of the Chunin exam to eliminate half of the participants who passed the second round. Upon hearing this, many participants became dissatisfied, as they had fought various battles and endured for 2 whole days to qualify for the third round. However, their dissatisfaction was of no use, and the preliminaries continued to be held. The rules were simple. Every genin would fight one-on-one, and whoever won would qualify for the third round. Hyuga Hiyashi vs Uzumaki Kushina, Shikaku Nara vs Uzumaki Sakura, Shimza Akimichi vs Uzumaki Hiroshi. The matches were announced, and the first match was Kushina's. She stayed in the arena, and Hiyashi Hyuga also remained. The referee announced the start of the match. Hiyashi Hyuga ran towards Kushina and attacked her with his gentle fist. However, Kushina had trained in white hits, so she easily deflected Hiyashi's attacks. The Taijutsu fight between Kushina and Hiyashi continued, with Kushina mostly defending and Hiyashi relentlessly attacking. Then, Kushina began to counter-attack Hiyashi with her white hits, and Hiyashi struggled to defend himself. He was quickly overwhelmed by Kushina's strength, and she exclaimed, "Let you taste the power of fire." She snapped her fingers, and fire engulfed Hiyashi. Hiyashi quickly used the 8 trigrams, palm rotation, creating a chakra barrier to defend against Kushina's attack. However, as he completed his jutsu, he was panting slightly. Just then, he saw Kushina snapping her fingers again, and a massive amount of fire engulfed him. Hiyashi once again used the 8 trigrams, palm rotation to defend himself, but this time, he was completely exhausted and barely standing. As Kushina prepared to snap her fingers again, a voice was heard from the stands. Hiyashi gives up. However, Kushina didn't stop and snapped her fingers again, causing a huge fire to engulf Hiyashi. At this point, the referee knew that if he didn't intervene, Hiyashi would definitely die, so he immediately used water style and saved Hiyashi. Hiyashi's father approached and checked on his son. Seeing that Hiyashi was fine, he then looked at Kushina and said, "I said Hiyashi gave up, so why did you attack him?" Kushina replied, "Only when a contestant gives up can it be counted." She then looked at the referee and asked, "Am I right, referee?" Referee nodded in agreement. "See, it was you who gave up, not your son. What if it was your conspiracy to let your son win when I am unprepared?" said Kushina. Everyone was speechless. Who in the world would dare to sneak attack her? After that, Kushina left the center of the arena and went to the stands, where her teammates were. The referee then announced the next match, Nara Shikaku vs Uzumaki Sakura. As soon as the referee said begin, Shikaku immediately used the shadow imitation technique and connected with Sakura's shadow. Sakura stood there as if she had given up, and the shadow connected with her own shadow, causing her to start moving. Sakura imitated Shikaku's moves as he made her take out her kunai. Just as she was about to pierce her own body, Sakura suddenly stopped, and no matter how hard Shikaku tried, he couldn't make Sakura move an inch. Suddenly, at that moment, a yellow chain appeared behind Sakura and pierced through Shikaku's shoulder. Shikaku's shadow imitation technique was lifted, and he was also upset. He said, "You never took me seriously, did you?" Sakura replied, "Isn't that obvious?" and started leaving the arena. Shikaku accepted his defeat, resulting in Sakura's victory. The last match was Hirashi vs Chimza Akimichi, and this battle was also one-sided. Using his fire fist and Taijutsu, Hiroshi easily defeated Choza. In this way, everyone from Uzumaki village qualified without any hindrance. Finally, after the prelims, 12 ninjas qualified for the third and final rounds of the Chunin exam. At that time, Hiruzen came forward and announced, "Congratulations to everyone who qualified for the third round. The third round will be held in 1 week, in the presence of the daimyo of the Fire Country." Upon receiving this information, Kushina left with her team, as she didn't want to hear any nonsense from Saratobi Hiruzen. After stepping outside, she noticed the genin team whom they had defeated in the Forest of Death. These genin had hostility in their eyes, and if they weren't weak, they might have already attacked. However, Kushina disregarded them and left without paying them any mind. After traveling a considerable distance from the Chunin arena, Kushina stopped and looked at Sakura and Hiroshi. She said, "I have a task for both of you. You saw those genin, right?" Kill them. The hostility they showed is something I cannot tolerate, so go and eliminate them. But they are just weaklings. Killing them would be meaningless, Sakura replied. I understand, but my grandfather mentioned that there are forbidden techniques capable of giving even him a headache. These weaklings might seem insignificant, but what if they are using such forbidden techniques and are willing to sacrifice themselves just to make us pay? He also admitted that despite his vast knowledge and experience, there might be forbidden techniques he doesn't know about. So, we must eliminate them. I don't want them alive, Kushina ordered sternly. Upon receiving orders from Kushina, Sakura and Hiroshi immediately set off to fulfill their task. The next day, after waking up, Minato went to the training ground, as usual, to train with Jiraiya. Upon reaching the training ground, he started doing warm-up exercises before Jiraiya's arrival. Since he was early, there were only a few people who came to train. After an hour, more people started arriving in large numbers, and just as Minato was about to change his training method, he overheard people talking. Did you see them? Said one person. Yeah. They were severely burned, said another. They were fine yesterday, and today they died inexplicably, added another person. Who told them to offend those red-haired guys? Remarked the first person. Minato, being a very smart person, immediately guessed who they might be talking about. Just as he was about to confirm his guess, Jiraiya approached him. Minato, it seems you've been training for quite some time, but you also need to understand that mornings are the best time for collecting materials, Jiraiya said with a lewd smile. Minato's face twitched upon hearing Jiraiya's words, but then he remembered and said, are they talking about the same genin and members of the Uzumaki clan, whom the genin offended? Upon hearing Minato's words, the smile vanished from Jiraiya's face, and he sighed. Yes, what they're saying is correct. All 3 genin were killed last night and they were burned. Yesterday, when they showed hostility towards members of the Uzumaki clan, I had a feeling something like this might happen. But obviously, Konoha can't spare its manpower to protect 3 genin, and the next morning they were found dead in their house. It's almost confirmed that they were killed by members of the Uzumaki clan. Why? I don't understand why they would care about hostility from some insignificant genin, said Minato, clenching his fists. Jiraiya looked at the sky and replied, this shows leadership qualities in that girl. Remember, Minato, for a leader, it's important to prioritize the safety of their people. Even though their hostility was minor, imagine a scenario where they encounter civilians from Yuzashiogakuka and decide to vent their frustration on them. It's necessary to eliminate anyone who harbors hostility towards you or your village. So take this as a lesson, especially since you aspire to become a Hokage, right? Minato nodded in response to Jiraiya's words. Jiraiya then said, because of your question, my mood worsened. Come, let's go to the bathhouse to collect materials. Saying that he dragged Minato along with him. No, I don't want to gather materials, sensei, said Minato. In the morning, inside the Senju clan compound, Kushina was training in her courtyard when Mitsuo approached her and asked, did you kill those genin? Kushina halted her training and looked at Mitsuo, replying, no, why would I do it when Sakura and Hiroshi are there? I ordered them to kill those genin. You did a good job, remarked Mitsuo. Yeah, small grandpa. I know that much, responded Kushina. Tsunade, who was standing at the gate, had a complex expression. She knew Kushina and considered her like a little sister. Living with her, she didn't know how to respond to the news of Kushina killing a member of her own village. Sister Tsunade, it seems you're facing some kind of problem, observed Kushina, looking at Tsunade's face. You don't have to worry too much. We will leave the Konoha village after 1 week. Upon hearing her words, Tsunade didn't say anything but left quietly. After Tsunade departed, Mitsuo said, although no one would dare to attack you, there could be some more mad people like that Chunin. So be careful, okay? Yeah, I also know that much. I'm not that big of a fool, replied Kushina. After their conversation, Mitsuo left. Danzo also debated with Hiruzen about this matter, and urged immediate expulsion of the Yuzashiogakuka team from Konoha. However, Hiruzen refused, stating that there was no proper evidence to justify their expulsion. If Danzo had evidence, he was instructed to present it, and Hiruzen himself would confront the Yuzashiogakuka team. Faced with no response, Danzo had to leave immediately. 3 days before the Chunin exams, inside the root base, Danzo was reviewing the intelligence sent by the root members, as he usually did. Suddenly, everything became quiet, as if no one was present in the base. He became alert, ready for an attack. Despite his vigilance, he couldn't sense anything, and his heart was filled with panic. He wondered if Mito had attacked his root base after learning about Kushina's situation. Fearing the unknown, he said, whoever you are, come out. I know you're here. At that moment, the sound of footsteps could be heard from the front, and Danzo was prepared to attack if necessary. However, when he saw the person's face and felt the overwhelming pressure, his weapon fell to the ground. It's impossible. How could you be alive? I saw your dead body. You were killed by the first Hokage in the battle at the Valley of the End, exclaimed Danzo with horror on his face as he stepped back. The man paid no attention to Danzo's fear and proceeded to the main seat, sitting on it with arrogance. You ask me this when you have researched everything about the Uchiha with Tobirama. You must also know how I survived, said the man with arrogance. So, you used Izanagi during your fight with the first Hokage, replied Danzo, regaining his composure. The man remained silent, not saying anything. Danzo took a deep breath and asked, "What do you want from me, Uchiha Madara? Why have you returned to Konoha? Do you plan to take the position of Hokage after the first Hokage's death? The seat of Hokage means nothing to me. If Hashirama were alive, I might have tried to fight him and claim the Hokage seat. But now that he is gone, no one is my opponent, and I have bigger things to accomplish," declared Madara. Okay. I didn't come here to talk nonsense with you. I came here to give you a chance to take revenge on Kagetsuchi, who took your arm, said Madara Uchiha. I can understand that I have a motive for revenge, but I don't think you have any motive. So why target him? What would you gain from it? Asked Danzo. Although he didn't offend me in any way, he can become a nuisance to my future plans. So he must be killed before that, explained Madara. What is your plan? Inquired Danzo. As soon as Danzo's words fell, Madara appeared in front of him and lifted him by the neck, resembling a chicken. He spoke with intensity. I am suppressing my impulse to kill you, as you are an apprentice of that Tobirama. So, don't test my patience. You don't have to know too much. Just follow what I say, or else you will be dead before you can even react. I understand, Danzo choked out, struggling to speak. His voice strained as he continued, and I will not repeat it further. Madara threw Danzo aside like a dead dog. Cough cough, Danzo coughed heavily. After calming down, he looked at Madara with fear. Madara was a cage-level powerhouse, and Danzo couldn't even resist him. So, what do I have to do? Asked Danzo. He loves his granddaughter very much, right? Lure her out, suggested Madara. But she is good at sensing, so it would be hard. I can't promise anything, replied Danzo. You don't have to worry. I will send you a man who can do it perfectly, assured Madara. And that concludes part 7. The story will continue in the next part. If you liked what you watched, let us know by giving us a thumbs up, subscribing to the channel, and hitting the notification bell to ensure you don't miss the next part. Have a great day. This is Omna Sensei signing off.
Never tell a fact that I never stay running. Sipping on facts, damn, no, I got stacks to the left. Taking bitches straight for another cat.